The second day was worse because the first day had lied. The first day had been all hands, lift this, tie that, count water. Grief had walked beside them but had not yet been allowed to speak. On the second day, work ran out of excuses. The road north opened into a country that should have been kind. A woman sang somewhere out of sight, not loudly, just enough to keep her steps from becoming only steps. Dagon hated her for a moment. Then he hated himself for that too. Mara saw everything when she was tired except her own need to sleep. Her face had gone pale around the mouth. Milk, blood, walking, grief, heat. There were ledgers inside a person that no tax man knew how to read, and hers had been overdrawn for days. "We stopped soon," Dagon said. "We stopped soon an hour ago. Then we stopped late. Better." He glanced at her. She gave him the smallest look, not humor exactly, humor's ghost passing by with business elsewhere. Enough to make him keep walking. They had eaten badly since leaving, bread hardened by the hour, olives that tasted mostly of salt and stubbornness. A strip of dried fish Dagon bought from a man who charged more because grief was visible and therefore counted as weakness. Dagon paid without argument, which made the man look disappointed. Some men did not enjoy robbery unless the robbed person gave them a story to tell afterward. The child refused the world for most of the morning. Then he accepted it loudly. Mara sat on a stone under the mean shadow of a wall and fed him while Dagon stood with his back to them. The road bent behind them. Ahead, two men drove goats and argued about whether Jerusalem had become too dangerous for honest business or only for foolish business. "Honest business is foolish business," one said. "That is why you are poor." "No, I am poor because my brother borrows like Rome and repays like rain." The other laughed. Dagon listened to them pass and thought, they do not know, why should they? Jesus was not the first good man killed. That should have comforted him. It did not. It made the earth seem practiced. Mara shifted behind him. The child quieted. "Say it," she said. "Say what? Whatever is making your shoulders look like that. My shoulders have always looked like this. Your shoulders looked worse before you loved anyone." Dagon turned. She did not smile. That made it better. "Do not start," he said. "I am too tired to start. I am asking before I sleep without meaning to." He crouched near her because standing over Mara while she fed the child felt wrong even when everything else in the world had forgotten manners. "I keep thinking it should mean something different," he said. "What? His dying?" Mara looked down at the child. "Different from what?" "From dying." She breathed once through her nose. "That is an honest thing. It feels wicked. Most honest things do when we first let them out." Dagon picked at a bit of dry mud on his sandal. It held better than some men. He said things. All the time he said things. Everything meant something else when he touched it. "Yes. So now I keep waiting for the meaning to arrive and tell the death to move aside." Mara's face tightened, not at him, at the truth. "And it has not," she said. "No." The child made a small hungry sound even though he was already fed. Greedy little prophet, Dagon thought, and then felt a stab of tenderness so sharp he almost cursed. Mara adjusted the cloth over the child. Mary would say meaning walks slower than fear. Mary says things like that because people forgive women with haunted eyes for speaking like prophets. "You like her." "I did not say I did not." "You worry for her." "I worry for everyone. It is a terrible habit." "You worry badly." "There is a correct way." "Yes, of course there is." "You worry as if loving someone means preparing to lose them correctly." He looked away. There it was. Mara did not swing often, but when she did, she found bone. "And how do you worry?" he asked. "I worry like a woman who still has to boil water." He nearly laughed. Nearly was enough. They stopped earlier than they wanted because Mara's steps had begun to shorten. Dagon found a place near a dry channel where reeds still marked the memory of water. There were old ashes in a ring and the smell of animals, but not fresh enough to frighten him. He checked the ground, checked the channel, checked the thorn scrub, checked the sky as if danger might descend politely from above. Mara watched him make a fortress of nothing. "Good walls," she said. "Mocking a man's camp is bad luck. A man calling 3 stones a camp is worse. 4 stones, forgive me. I may." She sat before her knees chose for her. That frightened him more than soldiers. Dagon made a fire small enough to deny if needed and useful enough to matter if not. Smoke lifted blue in the evening. The road beyond the hollow went dim. Travelers passed by in pieces, feet first, then bundles, then voices, then absence. A boy led an old man by the wrist. 2 women walked with baskets covered in cloth. A merchant cursed softly at a mule that had decided empire ended at one particular slope. Life had an insulting talent for continuing. Mara slept sitting up before the bread warmed. Dagon let her. He ate half his piece and saved the rest because fathers he was learning became dishonest about hunger by necessity. He set Mara's bread near her hand. The child slept with his mouth open, offended even in dreams. When dark came fully, Dagon took out the carved bird. He had not meant to. His hand simply knew where grief lived. The bird was small enough to hide, ugly enough to be true. Ili's sister had given it to him once to show Ili later. Ili had died before later. Theft, memory, penance, he had never decided which. Jesus had looked once, not at the bird, at the place under Dagon's hand where the bird hid. That had been early, before Kana, before Mara trusted him with anything heavier than suspicion, before the child, before wood and nails turned every before into a country no one could re-enter. Some things you carry until they teach you what your hands are for, Jesus had said. Dagon had snapped back, and what are hands for? Jesus had smiled like a man who knew the answer and did not plan to save Dagon the trouble of living into it. Start with bread, he had said. Dagon pressed the bird into his palm until the bad wing hurt him. I did, he whispered into the dark. Mara stirred. He put the bird away. The third day began with cold, not true cold. Road cold. The brief hour before the sun remembers its authority. Dagon woke with grit in his teeth and one hand on the knife under his robe. Nothing had happened. That was the mercy of most nights and the reason men slept badly anyway. Mara was already awake, of course. She had the child under her shawl and was staring east. You slept, he asked. Some. That means no. It means some. Mara. She looked at him then. For one moment she looked young enough that he hated the road for seeing her. I dreamed Mary came, she said. Dagon said nothing. She had oil on her hands. He kept saying nothing. She was laughing. That made him look away. Mara watched the east again, not happy laughing, frightened laughing. Like a jar had broken and water was still pouring after there should have been no water left. Dreams are stomachs talking in pictures. That is almost wise. It is exactly wise. No, it is hungry. He stood because sitting made him too available to truth. The road took them through country that remembered water better than the places behind them. The ground softened in patches. Reeds appeared for real now, not just old dry testimony. Birds lifted out of low grass and vanished into light. Somewhere ahead was a lake or a wide bend of water or one of those places where the earth opened its mouth and people gathered because thirst had taught them maps before scribes did. Dagon smelled it before he saw it. Water has a body. Anyone who says otherwise has only drunk from jars. The scent came green and cool under dust, carrying mud, reeds, fish, rotting leaves, and something sweet crushed too far away to name. It reached him like a hand against the forehead. His throat tightened. He hated that too. Everything kind had become dangerous. By midday, Mara could barely keep her eyes open when they stopped. The child had fed twice and cried once and stared once at Dagon with the flat judgment of a tax collector. Dagon took that as a good sign. Judgment meant strength. They found a tree near water, not a great tree. This was not the kind of life where great trees waited at proper moments. It was bent, scarred, stubborn, its roots gripping the bank with the desperation of a poor man holding a lease. But it gave shade enough for Mara's back and wide enough for the child to be placed between her arm and breast without sun finding him. Sleep, Dagon said. You first. I am full of strength. You are full of lies standing upright. Same thing if used correctly. Mara was too tired to argue. That frightened him. He helped her sit. She hated needing the help and accepted it with only one look that promised she would remember. He spread the rough cloth under her. She lowered herself, curled around the child, and placed one hand on the baby's back. Then her eyes found Dagon. Do not go far. I can see the water from here. That is not what I said. He understood. Stay where grief cannot take you without witness. I will be there, he said, pointing toward the bank. Dagon, I will be there. She held his eyes until the promise became shaped enough to trust. Then sleep took her without courtesy. Dagon stood over them for a long moment. The phrase wife and child still felt like borrowed clothing. He had come to them through theft, hunger, fear, a prophet's hand, a woman's lamp, and a dead friend's blessing. A dead friend's blessing. The thought split him open so fast he had no time to guard his face. The water lay below the bank, bright where the sun touched it. A fish broke the skin and vanished, leaving rings. He walked down slowly. His knees had become unreliable. At the edge he crouched and put one hand in. Cold, real, no miracle in that, thank God. He cupped water to his face. Mud lifted under his fingers. The taste was like reeds, silt, life that did not ask permission to enter a man's mouth. He swallowed, coughed, wiped his beard, and for no reason at all remembered another water. Goat leather, son, old wine, berry, Jesus catching his wrist. Jesus saying, most things do belong to someone else. That is why receiving is harder than stealing. Dagon laughed once. It came out wrong. The wrongness broke him. He covered his mouth, but the sound was already loose. It climbed out of his chest like something trapped under stone. He bent forward. Water blurred. His ribs hurt. His eyes burned. There was no clean crying in him, no noble grief, no prayer arranged for God to admire. It was ugly and hot and full of spit and breath and all the words he had refused to say because saying them would make the world answer with silence. You should not have died, he said. The water took the words and broke them into light. You should not have let them. That one frightened him. He waited for lightning, judgment, Mara's voice, anything. Only reeds, only water, only the child making a tiny sound in sleep behind him. Dagon lowered his head until his forehead nearly touched his wet hand. I do not know how to carry this, he whispered. The wind moved across the water. For one breath, the surface became a dark piece of sky. Dagon saw himself in it, a thief with a wife, a father with no map. If you were right, he said, then do not leave us stupid with it. The reflection trembled. He shut his eyes. No more. Not yet. Behind him, Mara slept. In his